Is that your foot off the bed?
I'm Lyurel.
And I'm Janelle.
And you're listening to the Foot Off the Bed podcast. So what's going on, Janelle?
I have a lot of stuff on my head. All right. So, first of all, thank God that they finally legalized weed. Because so many of my coworkers just be like go to their cars or like going to a park that's like down the street. Mm-hmm. I ain't saying no names because I might out them. But just go into some random area or like be in the cold outside smoking. Not publicly out in the open, but enough where it's like, yo, you shouldn't have to do this to make it to be like hiding.
They're like
shit.
hiding behind a dumpster in the corner of the parking lot next to like broken bottles and an unused fire hydrant.
Right. Like, but now it's like we can just do this out in the open. Like I don't have to worry about it. I hope my dad's not listening. If he listens to this, I hope he won't listen.
He'll probably tune out and then like fast forward until. No, let me stop.
I'm thinking of bringing edibles to Florida for my birthday.
Are you going for your birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I didn't want to stay in New York. I don't know. Like, there's stuff to do here, but there's not really. And it's like, I kind of want to be out in the sun. I haven't been in the sun in forever. I'm starting to look like a fucking ghost. So, it's time.
I feel that. To get back to the weed thing for like 2 seconds. As soon as it got legalized, I swear, like, every smoke shop and, like, pop-up weed store had, like, a line going out of it.
Really?
We went to one a couple days ago, and there was so many people. There were so many people just outside. This was in Trenton. And I was like, y'all can't, legalized or not, there's no way.
Right. Yeah. Just, I don't know.
People just, like, flock to everything.
I'm also so paranoid because, like, we still black. So I feel like, you know, they're just going to be like I feel like I'm going to have a moment where a cop is going to walk by and I'm going to be like, oh, shit. and it's going to be like...
me just in the car, like, lowering the seat. Yeah,
like... I'm still going to be paranoid those first couple of months. But when it starts, like, really, really setting in, I know everybody's going to be wilding. Everybody's going to be wilding. They're going to be, like, trying to go to restaurants, rolling up and
They're going to bring back smoking and non-smoking areas in restaurants and stuff. Right.
The only thing that I was worried about, which I'm glad they kind of, like, added to it, was they're, like, releasing all the people who were, like, convicted for it.
Yeah.
I would not have supported this bill at the fuck all if they kept... those people in jail.
Exactly.
Like, do not call for legalization if you're going to keep those motherfuckers in jail.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
What else is going on?
You know, everybody's dealing with COVID and whatever. And I feel like because the vaccine... First of all, the whole tone of, like, the presidential election and Biden getting in office, I feel like people think that because he's in office, that means everything's done.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that I work in a hospital and the people in there, the staff, are so relaxed about everything now. And I'm sitting here like, I'm watching nurses like walk into COVID patients' rooms with nothing on, no gowns, no gloves. They have their mask on because everybody just wears a mask now. But I'm like, a couple months ago, we were suited, like we had armor on, like I had a face shield and like 30 masks on my face and like 50 pairs of gloves and all this other stuff, and I still do that whenever anyone's a COVID patient and I have to take care of them. I still dress from head to toe. But some of these people, they act like it's over because a little and then what's crazy is that the vaccines are out and yet people are like, oh, I don't want to take the vaccine. When literally a couple weeks ago, you were asking for COVID to be over, and then you get the vaccine, and you're like, I don't want to take it.
Yeah, it's like, do you want it to be over or not?
Bruh.
Then it's also, like, my other thing, too, that I keep seeing that's, like, pissing me off is, like, oh, it's not FDA approved. But then on the other side of it, it's like, you trust the government? You trust the government to give us this vaccine?
Half the stuff we eat is not FDA approved, to be honest.
But I'm like, the FDA, is it not the government? Like, I'm just, what is your logic here?
Half the medicines we take are not FDA approved. People were saying how, they don't trust the vaccine because it was made too quickly. And these people, the scientists, were trying to come up with a vaccine for this specific virus and probably others for more than 10 years.
Yes. And nobody thinks about that. They're just like, it just came out of nowhere. No, it didn't.
Like, I think everybody kind of thinks that scientists are just a title. Like, oh yeah, whatever. They mix things in beakers and they're scientists, whatever. Like, no, they're actually doing stuff.
Yeah, like they've been doing the research. They probably knew about this virus well before we did.
They sure did.
Not even probably, they did. It's just like, okay.
But yeah, that's just my battle right now.
I've also been like, yo, I love Lil Nas X so much. This video of him like just trolling people and Christians getting so irate is so hilarious to me. So I've just been like, I actually haven't gotten in as many arguments as I thought I would over it. Because no matter what, I'm going to get into an argument.
Yeah.
That's
just you.
Yeah, that's just how I am. I'd be like, I'm going to ignore it. And then I end up doing it anyway. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people who are just like, well, yeah, he's just being himself. He's calling Christians out on their bullshit. But then there was just this one. There's always this one person. I'm not even gonna like go into depth because then I'm like, if he ever hears this, he'll be like, you talking shit about it? But it's just like, oh, Christians, they feel like basically he was just saying like they feel oppressed.
Ooh.
And I was like, let's not go into
big oofs.
Let's not go into oppression with Christianity in the same sentence right now.
Big oofs.
Because I will wreck your whole shit right now.
Didn't they write a whole book on that? A whole book that we still reading today.
That we still talking about.
All right, skip it.
Like, I'm gonna just keep it right there. I ain't even gonna go any further than that. Fuck that.
But honestly, I didn't even I didn't watch the video because I didn't want to really watch it, to be honest.
I didn't watch it either.
But I just listened to the song and like I was looking at the memes and stuff. But like it's not a bad song. Like I like his music. He can put a lot in 2 minutes.
Yeah. And he, like, from what I saw, because I didn't watch the video either, but from the little clips I saw, he's not doing anything crazy. Like, he literally chops Satan's head off.
It's complete. I just think it's completely on brand for him.
Yeah.
And, like, this is just... Anything else after the video is just to spite people, and I can respect it.
Exactly. Like, he's the biggest troll. You guys getting mad over it is not doing anything but boosting his career. But... Well, anyways,
I guess kind of want to give light to the Stop Asian Hate hashtag because it is a serious issue. I just don't understand people, man. Like,
it makes no sense.
It honestly doesn't. It honestly doesn't.
It's just like,
because like nobody was saying anything really when the Black Plague was happening. So I'm like,
imagine TikTok.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's the same difference. Like, it's like the swine flu and all this stuff. Like, really, we're going to harass a group of people because a virus that is taking over the world, quote unquote, started in an Asian country. Like, come on, bro.
It also just goes to show because the whole Ebola thing, people were like going in about people from Africa or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just the entire continent too, which is insane.
Yeah.
But it's like they were making jokes, but it was never to this extent of like the hate crimes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, is it?
Well, that we know of.
Yeah, that's true.
Because sadly, anybody who's Black, it's go back to Africa and all this other stuff. Oh, like, I remember being in school and, like, the kids were making jokes about who has Ebola and stuff like that. And I'm just like, y'all, sometimes you really just start noticing, like, where the people that you were surrounded by are really just...
dumb.
Yeah. I wanted to be nice, but sometimes some of y'all don't deserve niceness.
They're just stupid sometimes.
Some of them don't deserve it. But it's crazy though. Like, I'll be at work at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning watching the news and just hear this stuff, and I'm just like shaking my head because it just makes no sense.
It's so ridiculous. And then I'm also like, I feel like I'm about to get a little like.
I don't know what that means.
You know, I just have to like kind of. But I'm also getting annoyed at like the news and like some people on TikTok and Twitter or whatever, on social media in general, sitting there and trying to call Black people into it.
Oh,
and I'm just like, is this our responsibility? Are we the fucking superheroes of the fucking world to take on everybody's oppression?
No, I get that. I get that completely. Like, for me, it's like, not really a flip-flop, but like, I hate that the second anybody else gets quote-unquote oppressed or whatever, or attacked, they're like, all right, come on, Black people, you know what it's like. Help me out here. Like, nah, this isn't a feature, bro. Right. But at the same time, because we go through this every day, we don't want other people to.
Yeah, and that's my thing.
That's my part in it, that like I would stand by.
Yeah,
and will stand by.
It's the same thing with like the kids in cages.
Yeah,
like I'm like I don't want to see anybody suffering like that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see random, people of like Latino, Hispanic, or whatever background getting killed on the street or whatever either. I don't want to see Asian people getting hate against them. Yeah. But at the same time, y'all are not about to call us in. Like, this is our fight.
And so I'm gonna kind of throw a little shade, but it's truth that when the situation is reversed, we usually don't get the same treatment, the same respect. Usually it's, let's hop on the bandwagon to oppress others. But I'm not a person that holds a grudge. For
I'm not going to act like the whole group of people are doing that.
Yeah, because it's the same with every race. Like, it's not the entire race, but it's enough people to be like,
fix your shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I feel like I talked that out.
No, we did it. We did the thing. Got it out, cleared the air, got it out of our system.
Yeah, because I was like, there's no way that I could just start talking about all this crazy shit and not talk about the other crazy shit that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Today, we're discussing the 2007 film An American Crime. So, An American Crime is a film directed by Tommy O'Haver and starring Elliot Page, our Juno bestie, and Catherine Keener. In 1965, 16-year-old Sylvia Likens and her disabled 15-year-old sister, Jenny, are left in the care of a poor woman named Gertrude. I feel like her name was Baniszewski?
I was saying Baniszewski.
I wrote it here. My bad. Pronounced Baniszewski. Baniszewski. Their church friend and mother to Paula, Johnny, and Stephanie, and several other younger children.
Marie and James.
Oh, the other one's a Marine. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
She's got like 7 kids, and then I think the last one's name is like Dennis Lee White or something like that.
That's too many kids. Anyways, Sylvia and Jenny's parents, Lester and Betty, work in the carnival circuit and leave on a tour. Gertrude agrees to care for them for the fee of $20 per week. Let me see.
Today, that would probably be like...
of course, not all of the movies we discuss will be based on true stories, but this one is. So, it's based on the true story of the torture and murder of Sylvia Likens. As we said, Gertrude was the main person that was behind most of the torture and influenced her kids to torture her, and other parties as well, which is like, I don't know how they even got this far. I heard this story on a podcast I listened to. Shout out to A Paranormal Chicks. And the movie just, like, does not do the full story justice. Like, it's so... I'm not laughing because it's, like, funny. I'm laughing because I was like, I cannot believe...
laughing because it's crazy.
I can't believe how insane this woman was and how, like, she just was producing little fucking serial killers. Like, they're about to... Nah.
Listen, the whole thing is children do as they're told. Mm-hmm. Even when, people don't think they do, they do. They copy, they imitate what they see, what they hear. It's messed up.
Some of this content may not be suitable for children. So this includes violence against children, foul language, statutory rape, torture. There's a lot. So just prepare yourselves if you like have a trigger against violence against children and any type of torture or statutory rape. Yeah, just prepare yourself.
So what's crazy is I heard about this whole thing kind of through like a snippet because I watch a paranormal YouTube channel called Nuke's Top 5. Mm-hmm. And basically what Nuke does, he gets creepy paranormal videos and he shows them to you and he's like, oh, you know what, people have been saying they've seen this and blah, blah, blah. What do you see? Oh, you know, it's yours to decide or whatever. And in one of the top 5s, it had to be a long time ago, like before 2010. I think it was like before 2010. Somebody actually went and visited the house in Indiana. They walked by the basement window, and they were doing like an EVP session. For those of you who don't know, EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomena. So they're doing an EVP session, and they go over, you know, the recordings or whatever, and you could hear the slight sound of somebody screaming for help. And that sent chills through my body. I had no idea who Sylvia Likens was or whatever at this time. I was just like, whoa, you can really hear that. And of course, when I was watching this video, I was at work. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. So I was like, all right, let me look this up. And while my patient was asleep, I sat there and read everything related to what happened, how it played out, and everything.
Oh, so you like an expert.
And it wasn't even for the sake of like, oh, I need to know this. Like, it was a weird, I need to know this. It was like, I need to know if there was justice.
Nah, yeah, because you go down a rabbit hole once you like go into these stories sometimes. Yeah. You're like, nah, like I need to know what happened after this.
Because of course, like I love true crime and spooky ghost stuff. So I love history as well. So like I want to know. And I was just hurt. I went through so many emotions just reading. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the article or whatever, it was, oh, by the way, there's a movie based off of this. And I was like, oh, what?
Like, now I gotta watch the movie because...
Yeah. And I sure enough did.
Which we'll go into the whole discussion about the movie after.
But we're going into the background of Sylvia. So Sylvia was born January 3rd, 1949. She actually I don't think they really touch on this in the movie much, but she actually was the third of 5 children.
Wait, so they only showed those 2. I remember reading somewhere that she had an older sister, but I didn't know it was like 2 others.
She was actually born between 2 sets of fraternal twins.
What the fuck?
So her 2 older siblings, fraternal twins, 2 younger siblings, fraternal twins.
What?
Mm-hmm. Her family was a part of the carnival, whatever, carnies. And they traveled a lot. Yeah, so the mom was like, she didn't like having Sylvia and Jenny.
I think it was Betty.
Betty?
That was so random.
No, that's good. But yeah, she didn't want them to be traveling around with them because she wanted them to get a stable education, you know, whatever, stay around their friends and stuff. So a lot of the times, Sylvia and Jenny, they would stay with their grandparents or like other relatives in the area. You know, everything people have said about Sylvia, they were like, oh, she's a bright girl, very ordinary, well-rounded. Like she would earn money on her own to help out, you know, her mom with expenses or just to have spending money of her own. I think what really came into play how they ended up with Gertrude was that they had been living with their parents and the mom had gotten arrested for shoplifting.
Ah, bitch.
She got arrested for shoplifting and I guess the dad was like, I can't take care of these kids.
He's like, it's too many of these goddamn kids.
Because you know back then everybody's having 5 children, minimum.
10 fucking, yeah.
And they're all like a year apart. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, y'all. Wow.
Yeah, when I just look at my dad and like his brothers, I'm like, there's so many of y'all.
Yeah, because like even in our family, like we've had so many people.
Yeah, and that's too much. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So he basically was like, he needs help. They actually met Gertrude and her kids through like Sunday services.
Can I just say, like, I know it's like a different time. It's what, 1965 you said? Mm-hmm. But it's like, who the fuck just meets a stranger and is like, yeah, take care of my kid. I'll pay you. You could just take, I mean, I know that's how babysitting works essentially. like when we get down to the nitty gritty.
That's true.
But it's like, at least you know, like, that's a neighbor kid or somebody that lives like down the block, you know, the parents or something. But a grown woman that you've never met before, you don't know her like that. You've only met her, like, in passing or on several occasions. You're like, oh, yeah, come, like, you know, I'm just going to let my kids live with you.
You know what kind of gets me is that I know in his head he was probably like, oh, she got 7 kids. She's good with kids. She'll take 2 more. I know he was saying that, Janya. I know he was.
He just said, whoever can take these goddamn kids off.
Well, remember, it's only the 2 of them.
Yeah.
Because the others, I don't know why. Because Jenny, the twin with her, was the same age as her. But because the other child was a boy, they were like, okay, the boy can work with us. And I get, like, Jenny had polio, so it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't want her moving around and stuff. But I was like, the other boy, like, is his education not, like, we don't care?
It's not there.
He could just live this carny life, like, whatever.
Why couldn't we all live the carny life?
Right. I kind of did not like how they introduced the movie that way with Sylvia talking about how much she loved the carnival.
Yeah.
Because I feel like y'all was really laying it on with that, like, bruh. I mean, maybe she did. Maybe she did. I don't know her. I didn't know her personally, so I don't know.
There's a possibility, even.
Because to me, if I was born in a situation where we were constantly moving around just to keep up with the carnival, and I never got to have a stable home where I could make friends around the block or get a decent education or consistent education, I probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
I probably would not. So Gertrude was someone who attended church a lot with them. They saw her at church a lot. So I'm guessing the dad was kind of like, you know, she's a church-going woman. She's got all these kids. Whatever. She would be a good fit. And to truth be told, she kind of didn't give any warning signs of her personality because I guess she wasn't as stressed, I would say. Or I don't know. I feel like maybe she didn't hit that point yet.
Well, did she have any, like, signs of narcissism or anything like that? Or even a sociopathy? Because, like, even those 2 sort of things, they're good at hiding the fact that they have no empathy like that. Or that they don't care about, you know, other people outside of their family or friends that they care about. I wonder if that was part of it and she was just able to put on a facade for that.
Well, interesting thing about Gertrude. She was born September 19th, fellow Virgo. I am so sorry.
Most of y'all are crazy, though.
We're not gonna get into that. But yeah, she was the 3rd of 6 children. Right away, right off the bat, she's got connection with Sylvia in being the 3rd child. She was in a working class family, you know. The dad was out doing his thing. The mom was at home trying to get odd jobs to, like, you know, make ends meet for everybody. When she was 6, her father died of a heart attack, like, right in front of her.
Oh.
Right in front of her.
Shit.
So I imagine seeing that kind of did pop the screw somewhere. And also, when one of the spouses in a marriage or whatever dies, it kind of puts more stress on the one that's still alive.
Yeah.
Especially when you have 6 kids.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
That's a strain. So, of course, Gertrude dropped out of high school at 16 to get married to her first husband.
Oh, God.
John Baniszewski.
Was he older?
He was 2 years older. He was 18.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, you know, that's also another thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's still kind of predatory, but what can you do?
Because you know Gertrude.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
So she got married to this guy. She had 4 kids with him. She had 4 kids with the guy who she knew had a very volatile temper. I was going to say temperature. I don't know. Very volatile temper. And he beat her a lot. Very abusive physically and verbally. And they stayed together for 10 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's too long. 10 years too long, 4 kids, and that kind of stress. Before she finally decided it was it, they're gonna get divorced. Then she decided to remarry. She got married to a man named Ed Guthrie, and they divorced after just 3 months. So that probably kind of took a...
But they didn't have any kids.
They didn't have any kids, no.
Okay.
What actually happened was, after she divorced Ed, she remarried her first husband and had 2 more kids with him.
What the fuck? Gertrude, what the...
So that's 6 already.
I thought you didn't learn. And then, I mean, I know abuse is a cycle. You know, I'm just keeping my mouth shut.
No, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just laughing because it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, it's not even funny. It's just like, Gertrude, what the hell, man? Like, I thought we divorced him because of the abuse, but then you went back? I don't know.
It's tough. I can understand her probably wanting to go back with him because A, he was the father of her 4 kids. B, she just got out of a relationship, so she's on the rebound. I feel like she's just consistently on the rebound. And I don't know personally, but from what I've heard, you know, she's very familiar with him. So it was probably a lot easier for her to go right back to him.
That's true. If she needed the money, she's taking care of these goddamn 6 kids.
She's like, well, maybe he does beat me, but he also does this. That kind of stuff.
And then if you, like, you know, she's probably jaded from the death of her dad. She's probably like...
It's just tough to see, I think.
Yeah, like, well, that also can develop a lot, depending on, like, when they die in front of, when the kid experiences death for the first time. That can, like, put a strain on their mental health for real anyways.
Yeah.
Like, some of them developed whole disorders from that. So it's just, like, I can kind of see why she would latch on to someone who she was familiar with. I hate the word daddy issues, but kind of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can understand that. Once they had the 2 kids or whatever, I wouldn't say once they had it. Sometime after they ended up getting divorced again. After her divorce is when she ended up seeing the 22-year-old guy who they show in the movie as James Franco.
Who always plays a really great asshole.
And with this guy, she had the last child to make 7. And of course, he was like, I'm too young to have a kid with this woman. So he was up and at him, abandoning her and his kid, his son. Which is strange because usually, I mean, in the stories that I hear, usually if the child is a girl, their father will leave. But if it's a boy, then the father is like, oh, yeah, my son, blah, blah.
Of course. That's so fucked up.
It is. She had a lot going on. By 1965, she was alone with 7 kids. 7 kids under the age of 18.
See, that's the part. That's like, no, there's kids. There's not, oh, you just have, like, you know.
There's not even like, oh, one is like old enough to do things. No. I mean, she's old enough to get a job, but it's still rough.
It's like just thinking about that, like, I'm like, I want kids, but I think my limit would be 2 because I know kids are annoying. That's why I don't like other people's kids. But
my thing is, if I'm choosing to have kids with someone, that'll be the only person.
Yeah.
If I can help it or whatever, like, we have to be on the same page. There can't be no other random stuff going on or whatever. Like, this is a commitment, a lifetime commitment. So
yeah, and people try to act like kids aren't a commitment. Like, no, that's a commitment. This is for life. You have to take care of it now.
That's true, right? Like, it's true. So with all of that going on with her, I'm actually surprised she, you know, was just keeping with it and doing her thing. And mainly because she was still receiving money from her first husband to take care of the children. Between the money she was getting from him and the money she was making on her own, ironing, sewing, that kind of stuff, she was able to stay afloat, I guess. And she ended up, of course, being like a chain smoker, suffering from depression, because not only was she going through all of these divorces and whatever, she also did have a miscarriage. And even though her first husband was giving her payments, they were very sporadic. So it was kind of like, when's the next check gonna come?
Was it like mandated child support, or was it like he was just giving her money?
I think it was mandated.
Yeah, shit.
I believe it was. That kind of brings us to how they met the Likens, and Sylvia and Jenny ended up living at the Baniszewski residence. And the movie did get that part right, where, like, they were fine, and then the second one of the checks came late, like maybe by a day or even 2 days, that's when everything went downhill.
That to me, I'm gonna talk about it later, but I'm just like, that was the most baffling thing. I was like, were you just looking for an excuse, or was it like, no, this like
It's
really
weird,
triggered
yeah.
you?
That's really
like
weird.
Poverty really triggered the fuck out of you.
That's what I think too, because I mean, we've all been in that situation where, like, you know, we're thirsty for some kind of money to come in because there's something happening or whatever, or you just need it. It's the equivalent of going to the store with your debit card or whatever and just praying that it says transaction approved.
Bruh.
Because there's been so many instances where it said insufficient funds.
Bro.
And you standing there looking stupid and loud.
I can tell you what happened to me this morning.
Oh my God.
I was like, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I just woke up this morning and it said negative 200 something. I said, bitch. What? How?
Not
And then
that.
I saw that, like, because, okay, a payment came out that was like a bill. Then another big bill came out, but I thought the bill had come out already, so it just took it late. And I was like, how? Like, why did you take it days later after I already said take it today?
And it wasn't on the weekend or anything?
No, it was on a Friday. And I was like, all of a sudden today I wake up and it just took the payment. I'm like, yo, what? So I just woke up with like negative 200 something. I was like, nah, somebody got to respond to this. Somebody
needs to tell me what's happening.
I'm coming after somebody because this is what we not about to do. I have never been this low in the negatives a day in my life. I'm not going to start today.
Not on this day.
Son, I had to take out some money from my savings. I was like, no, we're not doing this.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know how the hell that happened. And it wasn't even like I was close to broke. I wasn't even close to broke. That shit just said negative 200. Whoa. We are. Let's rewind.
That'll definitely give you a jolt in the morning. Definitely.
That shit woke me up. It's like, hell no.
Because I get shook when it's like, I get the message that's like, your account balance is below the set amount that you wanted us to warn you. And I was just like, and it'll be like 2 cents lower. Like,
bruh, I even get shook when because my minimum that I said like alert me is 100, even though I don't even like when my account is even there.
Yeah.
But bruh, I didn't even get that alert. It just jumped straight to negative 200. I said, bitch, what?
That's crazy.
I have never in my life seen that much negative.
But yeah, so money issues, I'm not gonna say I can understand, because if I was in that situation, I would just be patient and then try to do something to make up that difference or whatever, blah blah blah.
Well, it had to be partially desperation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think it did trigger her, like it kind of reminded her of her first husband and his sporadic checks. And you would think that, like, I hate to say this, but, like, if you were used to sporadic checks, would you really be so hell-bent on that check arriving right when the person said that it would arrive?
Yeah, especially over some little $20. Like, I don't know how much that is now.
No, it was probably a lot back then. $20 is a lot.
That's true. But I'm just like, yo, you, like, okay, maybe not a little $20.
Because her rent was, like, $55.
Oh.
To live in the house. So $20 was probably, like I'm going to say, probably the equivalent to like over $150 or something like that.
Shit. Well, yeah, then I probably would be blowing smoke too, but I would not be.
But I wouldn't blame the kids.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame the kids. It'd be like, call up your daddy because I'm a black.
So the literal second the check didn't come, she did not hesitate to put her hands on these children, call them all kinds of names under the sun. And one of the lines, I think it was in the movie, but she actually was like, I just wasted a week taking care of you little bitches. And I'm like, it's not even like they're bad kids. One has polio.
Yeah, like what were they really doing?
And then Sylvia is a model child, if there is one, that she was one of them. And to be so like that, that really got to me because I was like, they didn't even do nothing.
Yeah, like they weren't even like talking back.
Yeah.
They were just so confused. Like, what the fuck did
And
I do?
honestly, like kids these days, if a stranger's putting their hands on them, they're going to put their hands back on them, or they're going to tell someone so that somebody else can beat them up or whatever. But they were like, who do I go to?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's not like they just have a cell phone to go call up their parents and be like, so-and-so put their hands on me.
Yeah. The initial abuse was just beatings for stupid things because the check was late. One time they both got beatings for eating too much at a church picnic.
What?
Or a church supper or whatever. Which didn't make sense. Because I'm like, if y'all didn't provide the food for it, if the church is providing, I'm eating.
Yeah. Like, I'm hungry? Like, what?
Like, it would be less of a strain on you if they had a full stomach, because then you don't have to feed them when you come home.
Yeah.
And you could save food. But
Take
apparently, that was not the thing to do. Didn't want to look like, I guess, a glutton in front of the minister or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I could see them trying to justify that as like, gluttony's a sin. Now I'm beating you. Or like, now you're making us look like we don't feed you. I'm beating you. bullshit.
It is. You know, after those initial beatings or whatever, Gertrude started to target Sylvia more because, and it's so obvious that it's out of jealousy because, like I said in the beginning, there was some similarities between Gertrude growing up and Sylvia then that, like, I guess Gertrude was reminded of her younger self and her potential when she looked at Sylvia. And I guess that kind of, like, ate away at her or something. Like, why couldn't she be the one to drop out of high school and marry 3 times and get all these kids and suffer like that?
Yeah, because I didn't get that from the movie. I could not understand just alone from the movie why she was doing that to her specifically. Like, I was like, obviously it's jealousy, but of what? That
was my issue with the movie as well. Like, it didn't really kind of feed into that. It kind of was just like, oh, she just turned on her just like that. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like, okay, this is a turn. Like, this is a huge turn.
But yeah, she was really targeting Sylvia, you know, starving her at any opportunity, or, like, making her eat, like, leftovers or spoiled food out of the garbage. Stuff like that. And it's just, ugh. My thing that made me mad was that any kind of, like, little thing that Sylvia would do, anything, and immediately it's beatings and, like, kicking her in the genitals.
What?
Why? Why was that the area you were like, oh, this kid did something bad, let me kick them in the genitals?
I just, like, cringed.
Yeah. It's the worst. Oh, my God, yes.
What the fuck? Why would you... Why?
Of course, the kids, like, their kids are watching, because where else are they going to be? So all those other kids, they're just sitting there watching Gertrude do this, and Gertrude's justification was Sylvia's too promiscuous, or Sylvia stole this thing. They accused her of stealing candy, and she actually bought it herself with her own money.
Oh my God.
And in the movie, I think they said that she stole money from her, like Sylvia stole money from Gertrude, but it was her actual own money. And I was just like, come on, bro. And this is how you know this woman is sick. As like a punishment, she forced Sylvia to entertain her and her children by stripping in front of them and like masturbating with Pepsi bottles. Like, what is wrong?
Sick. Like, all of this, you are just from your father dying. This is what you... No.
To me, it sounds like she wanted Sylvia to feel the humiliation that she felt throughout her failed marriages. Like, maybe not to that extent or whatever, but kind of put on display because, oh, look at this woman. Like, she's had all these failed marriages and all these kids and nobody loves her, that kind of thing. And it's just...
Yeah, nobody loves you because you're fucking psycho.
It was just that's part is so weird and, like, super perverted to me. Like, why would you think that that's entertaining?
Well, she's perverted in general, but first of all, why? Why the fuck is that a punishment? That's not even a punishment. That's just you getting off on some sick shit.
Exactly.
Then the other thing, when she's, like, flirting with the fucking kid.
Oof. Yeah.
It's also a little when you're, like, flirting with a 22-year-old and you're, like, way older. Like, he's still a baby, but he's an adult, but he's still kind of a baby.
Yeah, because, like, in her actual story, like, they don't say that, that, like, Gertrude was trying to flirt with the neighborhood children or whatever. Like, in the movie, that was kind of, like, a new thing for me. So I was like, what? Like, why is she doing that?
Maybe they were trying to compensate for the predatory behavior without showing, like, the graphic nature of...
I think so, yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. And after, like, a lot of the beatings and stuff, like, she ended up forbidding Sylvia to from going to school. That part to me, I'm like, what is she supposed to do? She can't do anything but just be at the house, suffering these attacks from not only Gertrude, but her children as well, and sometimes her own sister, because Gertrude would force Jenny to attack her sister. Just to be a part, I guess. Just so that everybody's involved. So it's not just her. And, you know, it kind of just puts you in that situation of turmoil where, like, what do you do when an adult who's supposed to take care of you, an adult that your parent trusted, is treating you like this? You kind of feel like there is no escape for you, because if you try to tell someone, you'll get hurt more. And if you try to tell your parents probably will be like, no, we don't believe you, or, you know, they're too far away so they can't do anything. And again, it's just going to go back to you getting hurt more because you tried to seek help. And the school systems are definitely, first of all, the school systems are still lacking in that area of like protecting children. So like,
Social
if
services.
she did go to the school, nobody would believe her.
Nobody would have even paid attention enough to know that something was going on with her.
Not at all. What I did read was insane to me, because apparently her parents did visit the house twice. Oh. Yeah, they would visit the house and everybody would pretend like everything's okay.
The funny thing is, I've heard this story before, but all of this is still sounding like new shit, where I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious?
It seemed to me like I'm looking at my notes like, they were there twice. And I feel like if you had that kind of connection with your kid, like, you would know. Even if they try to hide, you would know that there was something wrong. But they didn't know. There were no visible signs of abuse.
I had read that the oldest sister had visited too at one point.
She did.
And she also was just like, I don't see anything. Even though they told her.
It wasn't that she visited them. They visited her by chance. The first time they saw their sister, she was just hanging around. And Sylvia had mentioned that she was hungry. So her sister gave her half a sandwich or something to eat. And the Baniszewski children saw her get a sandwich. So, of course, when we go home, Mommy Sylvia got a half a sandwich from her sister. And she got beatings for that. So much abuse.
Fuck you, Gertrude Baniszewski. Fuck you.
So that kind of just, like, shows that there's, like, that... I mean, it is, corruption, but, like, it's, like, that mob mentality that was put into the kids. Like, this is our mom, so we're gonna be, like, loyal to her or whatever.
It's like also the younger kids are so impressionable at this age that, and I remember we were talking about little kids being like fucking little narcissists at a certain age. Like, they probably just didn't even see anything wrong with it.
Nope.
They were like, Mommy said it's okay, so it's okay.
That's exactly it. They just thought that this was normal. Like, yeah, we just got a girl that we beat up in our basement. Yeah, it's normal. Like, that's basically the attitude. The second time they met up with the sister, they were alone. They told her everything that was going on and how much abuse they were going through, how bad Sylvia's getting it. She thought they were exaggerating. So she was like, she didn't really think about it that much.
Who would exaggerate that?
Especially if you don't have... Like, I know kids lie. Kids make up stories, whatever. Everybody does. But something like that, you have to see or you have to experience. Yeah. That's not something you could make up on your own. Not like that. I just know if it was me, I would have been like, what? And I would have been like, no, you're not going back there. We're going somewhere else.
First of all, I'm beating somebody's ass. I'm going up there and being like, I'm beating your ass. Come outside.
I think at one point she did visit the house. Gertrude didn't let her in. Wouldn't let her in the house at all. She was about to get that ass beaten up. Because that was the case. Like, anybody her size, she wouldn't want any parts with because she wouldn't last.
I wish she would have got... Actually, no. I can't even say I'm going to beat your ass. I'm going to jail. Like, you're probably dead now.
Another thing to add to the turmoil that they kind of showed in the movie as well, that they had neighbors. Yeah. And the neighbors could hear at like 2, 3 in the morning Sylvia screaming and screaming for help. And it was basically like... Oh, she's screaming. Okay, she stopped. That's it. It's over.
They were like, probably best if we just mind our business. No, what?
But y'all know these people be looking hard as hell at everything. Like, y'all nosy.
They
and
nosy
never want to
as
say
hell.
nothing.
Hearing everything that's going on. Looking in the window. Probably seeing her do all this crazy shit and just like... Probably best if we just mind our business.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they show that in the movie, too, and that made me so mad. The husband was like, it's best to stay out of it. Is it, though?
No.
Is it best to stay out of it?
Would you stay out of it if it was your kid? I thought not.
Exactly. Okay. And I bet they didn't even have kids. It didn't look like they did. And if they did, oof.
Sorry for those kids.
I can't.
Sorry to those kids.
And I know people are like, parenting is hard and blah, 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 but... It doesn't take much to help someone. especially in that time period where y'all had serial killers just popping up out of the woodwork every 5 seconds.
That's a whole nother thing. That is a whole nother thing.
Goodness.
Y'all be placating these motherfuckers. They just be, hey, I just killed a girl down the street. Can you help me put her in the trunk? Yeah, sure. Why not? Like, what?
Because of the abuse and basically an escalation of it, Sylvia ended up being incontinent. She was denied access to the bathroom. So, of course, she would wet herself a lot and wet the bed a lot or whatever. And that's how she ended up being forced to stay in the basement because of that. And she was often kept naked, rarely fed, and deprived of water. So, no water at all. Barely food, no water at all. And they tied her to the railing. So she wasn't even sitting down or nothing. She was like basically hanging, barely able to touch the ground.
Yeah, I saw that they had her in the movie tied to a pole at one point. But I was like, I bet that wasn't like just a one-time thing. That was like every night they had her tied to that shit.
And apparently the only time they stopped their abuse of her was when their favorite show was on.
What?
They would take a break.
So they literally equated that shit to regular entertainment. What the
It's crazy. It's insane.
Yo.
And it really got so insane. They're charging neighborhood children 5 cents a piece to come downstairs and beat on her. 5 cents a piece.
See, I think that's the main part that I remember because that stuck with me. I was like, yo, they were literally charging to come abuse this girl and torture her. Are you insane? So not only are you affecting your kids, you're affecting outside kids.
Mm-hmm. And then this kind of ties into the whole Carney family thing. And Sylvia being carnival ride or attraction. And Gertrude just raking in the money from it. Oof. It's too much.
I was like, was that a nose ring moment?
It was a little bit of both.
She literally went like this, and I was like, what is happening?
I had to fix it, but like, the oof was for the moment. But yeah, like, she's real sick stuff. She ended up carving, I think the part they showed in the movie that she ended up carving, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," on Sylvia's body with a heated needle. And insane, so insane, Gertrude couldn't even finish it. So she had somebody else finish it. One of the neighborhood kids finish it.
Yeah, I think that was the part with, first of all, Evan Peters plays a really creepy ass motherfucking, I don't know how he plays creep so well, but he plays it so well. I don't know if he was like a real person, but if he was.
He was, yeah.
Oh my God.
Richard Dean Hobbs.
You just sitting there so obsessed with this girl, and then you joined in and started carving her body up. What is wrong with you?
It doesn't even say that Richard had a thing for Sylvia at all. I think that was just for movie purposes.
Oh, because I was like, no.
And even then, it's still, that's so weird. Like, you like her. Why would you hurt her?
Yeah. They probably needed to make better. I mean, actually, no. They actually probably didn't need to make better sense. Because I could see if somebody was obsessed with someone. They're just like, any sort of touch is enough for me. Mm-hmm. Any sort of interaction with her is enough for me. And probably got some sick thrill off of it, too.
Probably. And probably didn't want to get in trouble or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because in the movie, he was somebody who smoked underage and he wasn't supposed to. Mm. So Gertrude kind of had that over him because there were several scenes where he was smoking with her.
And not going to school.
Yeah. Because that was their fun time. Like, hey, let's go over to Gertrude's house and torture Sylvia. That was basically what they did every single day.
I'm not going to say what I'm thinking.
It's probably best you don't. And even after, like, carving her with the needle, they also brandished her. They call it an anchor belt. I've never, like, seen one, but I can kind of imagine what it looked like.
Is that the thing? Not the big buckle belt, but there's, like, another big thing. But I feel like I have the image in my head.
Oh, it's literally just a belt buckle shaped like an anchor.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Why did I think it was like those not chunky metal parts, but like chunky enough? But if it's an actual anchor, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah. The abuse got so ridiculous that Sylvia basically knew she was going to die. She told her sister that she was going to die. And she's like, I know you don't want me to, but I'm going to die. And that part to me, that did bring chills down my spine because I was like...
Yeah, I feel...
that
My
feeling.
heart broke a little bit.
Yeah. You never want to hear that from anyone you love. And you just feel so helpless you can't do anything. It's too much.
Also, like, I know Jenny's just a kid, but fuck Jenny. I'm sorry. It just, like, I know it's easy to say because I'm not in the situation, but I'm just like, you just joined in the torture. And it's like, she was probably scared. She said it in the movie. I'm scared, Sylvia. Like, so she just joined in, but it's just like, oh, fuck you.
It is tough, like, because like I definitely was like, Jenny, why didn't you do more? But this is a child who was still getting bullied at school too, just for having polio, and having polio on top of being Sylvia's sister, who everybody knew was the person to torture or whatever. So I'm like, I know she was going through her own thing, and a lot of us see frightening things every day and don't act on it because you're frozen in fear and you don't know what to do, especially if you don't think you're strong enough or you don't know what to do.
Yeah, she probably thought she was too weak to stand up for her. She's only one against how many kids and adult in a fucking house. So it's just like, I get it, but at the same time, I also get like,
we're supposed to be boys. No, I get it, yeah. The sibling thing. There was actually several attempts that Sylvia made to escape, because at a certain point in the abuse, Gertrude made Sylvia write out a runaway letter to basically saying that she was running away and blah blah blah, and she was going to try and frame all of the lacerations and bruises and everything on her body on some random kids in the neighborhood and basically absolve herself of all the blame.
Of course.
And so yeah, Sylvia did try to leave. The first attempt, she just tried to leave on her own, but she was so weak that she couldn't really get too far. She ended up making it out into the yard before Gertrude caught her and brought her back in. She just basically just beat her and like put her back in the basement. Yeah, like she called out for her neighbors to help and they were just like, nah. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it like that. But yeah, close to the time of her death, Gertrude was, I guess, noticing that something wasn't right, I guess, because Sylvia wasn't responding like she would normally. Which, when you're severely dehydrated and malnourished and consistently beat, and you're gonna act a little strange.
Yeah. Sodomized, fucking.
Ugh. Repeatedly. On the morning before Sylvia's passing, she tried to give her a donut and milk. But Sylvia really she didn't even have function of her arms anymore. Like, she couldn't bring the cup up to her mouth to drink it.
She's dehydrated and severely beaten. What the fuck did you think she would be able to eat?
Exactly.
And down?
Like, it's so ridiculous. She was so delirious, she couldn't even recite the alphabet. She would get to, like, letter D or something, and she couldn't go any further. But she was trying to, like, remember everybody's faces. She would, like, weakly point at, like, Gertrude and be like, oh, you're Gertrude, and blah, blah, blah. And Gertrude would still get mad because she, I guess, didn't want to believe that she was going. Sylvia was going. Yeah, she tried to escape one more time, and she got to the basement step and collapsed, where Gertrude actually stomped on her head several times. Who was it? Stephanie Baniszewski was kind of like the person who was more sympathetic towards Sylvia. You know, she was like trying to wash her and like comfort her or whatever. Like, she would cry for her because she knew, I guess she did know that like this wasn't right at all. Even though like she may have participated in a lot of the stuff, I think she was one of the people who were like, I know my mom is forcing me to do this, but I really don't want to. As opposed to the other kids who were like, oh yeah, this is fun, blah, blah, blah. They got Stephanie washed her and put her in clean clothes, and they actually took her upstairs into a bed so she could lay down. I think one of the things that Gertrude said, she was asking why Sylvia wouldn't cry anymore. And I think Jenny was the one who told Gertrude that, like, she doesn't have any water in her body. She doesn't.
Oh,
she
yeah,
can't.
in the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, well, duh, bitch. Like,
it's like, God.
What tears do you think she would have with no fucking liquid or any type of anything in her body?
When they took her upstairs into bed, her basic dying wish was that her father was there, and her father could be there to take her home. And then she finally succumbed to her injuries and passed away. I think the worst part about that is Gertrude not believing that this girl is gone. And she's just like, oh, she's faking it. And you're beating her more.
She's faking.
Like,
she's faking.
What is wrong?
How is she faking? You literally beat her, left her malnourished and dehydrated for days.
I'm just like...
Sodomized her. Let these kids burn her with a fucking needle. Like, what?
I was like, how could you... What could have gone so wrong in your head that... I'll never understand it. I know I won't ever understand it. It just gets to me. What's insane is that Gertrude actually had her son call the police from a payphone. And when they arrived to the house, Gertrude was like trying to use the little runaway letter she made Sylvia write to be like, oh, she ran away and then she came back like this and I've been trying to nurse her for an hour, but she just passed away. And this is where we love Jenny again, because Jenny was basically like, she pulls a cop aside and she's like, if you home. Get me out of here, I will tell you everything. Everything.
The survival tactic of the fucking year.
It truly was like,
I get it. I definitely get it. She was like, I will tell you everything. Just get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
I do not want to die. I will be next.
Literally right after it said it was like a couple hours or whatever. And I guess it was because they needed that time to hear everything Jenny had to say. But they arrested Gertrude and Paula and Stephanie and John and Coy, Richard, all of them.
I done forgot who was the oldest.
So Paula was the oldest. She was the one who got pregnant, who punched Sylvia so hard in her face she broke her wrist, and then continued to beat Sylvia even with a cast on her arm. Sylvia's autopsy report concluded that she suffered in excess of 150 wounds across her entire body. Burns, bruises, extensive muscle and nerve damage. Ooh. Her fingernails were broken backwards. Yeah. And the layers of skin on her face, breasts, neck, and her right knee were peeled or like receded.
Oh, no.
And apparently she had been deceased for up to 8 hours before she was found. So that was probably just Gertrude trying to like clean her up and like clean her fingerprints or whatever off of Sylvia or something like that.
Her fucking bodily fluids are probably all up in the basement because you let her urinate and do everything down there. Mm-hmm. Throwing up, blood, everything. You can't clean that up.
Everything.
You're going to jail.
The worst detail for me in all of this was the fact that the autopsy showed that she had bitten through her own lips, partially severing sections of them from her face. You know how much pain you gotta be in to give yourself that kind of pain to take it away?
I literally feel like I just felt that and my whole body just tensed up.
I always my bottom lip always feels weird when I say that, or when I read that, and I'm just like, it's rough. Because to bite through anything of yours, I don't know why that, because you could bite through your foot or something and I'd be like, okay. But the lips, they had an open casket funeral for her to see what was done to her. And they had a picture of her before staying with Gertrude next to the casket, so they know what the heck the difference was. They had more than 100 mourners. It's funny how everybody wants to be there after you're gone, but nobody wants to be there when you need the help. Oof.
Shade.
And there was a 14-vehicle procession to the cemetery to watch her get interred. Her headstone was inscribed with "Our darling daughter." So that concludes everything from background to the funeral. The court cases, 17 days.
That's short?
For me, it's that long. Because I'm like, day one, I would have been like, yeah, arrest her.
Right.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Why are we still here?
But I'm just surprised at that because I'm like, no, those don't usually last that long.
They don't know. Gertrude's defense team was like, she's clinically insane. Like, she's not right in the head. So there's no way she could have been responsible for her actions because her brain no work. And the prosecution was like...
like, she's insane, but she still has some sense to know that what she did was wrong, because if she wanted to cover it up, then that means she knew it was wrong and that she would go to jail for it.
Exactly. Like... And the prosecution's closing argument, which I always thought was really, I don't want to say profound, but like it really stuck to me. There was practically no fat on her body. she hadn't eaten for a week. And they said, we'll never know the pain and suffering that Sylvia endured. The best evidence of that was the picture of her lips that was bitten to shreds. And I said, that got to me too. So I'm like, I definitely would use that, because that had to be the bit of evidence that solidifies this child was going through a lot.
Oh.
It's too much.
I do remember that part of the story too. Like, they were like, she literally had no fat percentage. Like, she just was rib and bone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, how can you sit there and look at that and be like, sure, this is fine.
So yeah, that wasn't my fault. Yeah, like, kids don't look like that.
And then it's like some of those kids were at an age where they should know better by then. They know right from wrong by then. They've developed that part of their brain. So it's just like, you sat there, watched that. You're a sociopath just like your goddamn crazy mother. And I would not be sorry if you went to jail for the rest of your life either.
Honestly, and I was hoping that a lot of these people did go to jail for the rest of their life. But a life sentence is only 25 years. So Gertrude and Paula received life imprisonment. So Gertrude and her oldest daughter, Richard Hobbs, the Evan Peters guy, Coy Hubbard, and John Baniszewski, they got 2 to 21 years in a reformatory, but they only served like 2 years. Stephanie's case was dropped because she agreed to like basically turn everybody else in.
Oh, so I guess that was the difference in the movie, that like Paula was the one that kind of snitched on everyone, but Stephanie was in the real life was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna snitch on everybody.
Yeah, because Paula was just as ruthless as her mom, because she was going through just about the same things as her mom was. Shacking up with random people, getting involved with married men, getting pregnant, having the men say they want nothing to do with them anymore. That kind of got to her as well. So she was well on her way to becoming her mom.
The generational curses.
Yup. Richard Hobbs, after he was released, they said he lived in relative obscurity and died of lung cancer at the age of 21.
Richard was the Evan Peters one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
Coy Hubbard, I believe he was the boyfriend of somebody.
Stephanie. In the movie.
Stephanie.
But I don't know whose boyfriend he was in real life.
It probably was Stephanie, because Paula's boyfriend, I don't remember. He actually kind of led that like life of crime. He was repeatedly in prison. What's interesting is that after this movie came out, he was fired from his job that he had because they were like, bro, that's you? Oh, nah.
Good for you, dumbass.
And then, because this movie was released in January of 2007, and he got fired and ended up having a heart attack in June of 2007 and passed away. And I was like, damn, that's what happens when you're problematic.
Right.
So John Baniszewski Jr., he became a minister, counseling children of divorced parents.
That's it? That's all you went through in life?
He became a minister, and I hate the way they say this, but apparently he actually enjoyed the attention he was getting from the Sylvia case. That
of course.
He liked the attention, and I guess he saw it as a teachable thing or something. I don't know. But he actually ended up dying of diabetes in 2005. But he lived to be 52 years old.
Short life. Whatever.
Paula, her and Gertrude actually did a retrial in 1971, so 6 years after they got sentenced. Paula opted to plead guilty. She had a service of 2 to 20 years instead of life imprisonment, and Gertrude was sentenced to life again. So Paula actually became an assistant guidance counselor in the school district, and she worked in that position for years until the movie came out. And they were like, oh,
you gotta go.
Oh, wait, no. Actually, they found out about her conviction because she actually lied on her job application about being a convicted felon. And they found out and fired her. She actually had several children. She was married with several children. Marie and James, the little babies, they went back under custody of their father. Marie ended up getting married and died of natural causes in 2017 at the age of 62. James, they don't say anything about James. But the youngest, the baby,
that was James Franco, that character's son.
Yeah. His name was Dennis. He actually got adopted. They changed his name, and he lived in relative obscurity.
He probably lived a somewhat normal life.
Probably. He died in 2012 at the age of 47.
Jesus, why are y'all dying so young? What the hell?
I feel like that's like a curse.
Right.
Even if they didn't do anything, that's a curse.
The karma is so hard.
What's crazy is Gertrude, after being convicted for first-degree murder the second time, she was released on parole in 1985. Apparently, she was the model prisoner. Everyone looked up to her. They were like, she was like a mother figure to them. And
it was a facade. A facade.
And apparently, she never accepted responsibility for Sylvia's death. She blamed her actions on the medicine she was taking for her asthma.
So we're really gonna say.
She says she doesn't remember abusing Sylvia. She can't recall what she did in that time.
That's how you know you're guilty. You can't even say, no, I didn't do this. You're just like, no, I don't remember. I don't remember anything like that. I don't remember
doing that.
I don't think it's a blur. I don't like, ma'am, shut the hell up.
And she eventually died of lung cancer.
That's what you get for telling those goddamn lies.
June 16th, 1990, at the age of 61. Jenny, she later gets married. She has all these children. But the trauma and abuse that she suffered with Gertrude made her dependent on anxiety medication. She died June 23rd, 2004, at the age of 54.
She didn't even get to see her movie.
No, she didn't. And the house that they lived in, 3850 East New York Street in Indiana, was vacant for many years until it was eventually demolished, and it's now a church parking lot. So yeah, you can't visit the house anymore because in 2009 it was demolished, and it's now a church parking lot.
Hopefully it's not haunted.
Gosh, I was so hoping that it was still there, but of course, after all that time, it'd be very dilapidated and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So, scale of 1 to 10, what did you think about the movie?
I honestly give it a 7.5 out of 10. Because of the fact that Elliot Page did a really good job portraying Sylvia. Mm-hmm. It was more or less true to the real story, and I can understand why they left certain things out. I can understand why they tried to, dance around certain things or make up stuff to explain other things. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
For a true crime movie, it did its job. It got the message out there. So, the one thing I don't agree with, you already know, the beginning of the movie with the church music playing as Sylvia is narrating.
If y'all don't know what she's talking about, there was this really weird out of place gospel song that played, and we were all just like,
because
this doesn't fit.
Honestly, you hear Elliot Page talking, and then all of a sudden I feel like I'm in a Tyler Perry movie. What goes on? It's so out of place. It's Indianapolis in 1965. They're going to church. There's no way that's the music that's coming out of it.
It's not a "Come all ye faithful." It's no, take me to the king.
So, gosh, I wish it was that.
And which actually would have made more sense, but it was more 1960 type of gospel, Jim Crow type of era gospel song.
Because if you're not familiar with Black churches or Black funeral processions, we are not mourning.
Yeah.
We are celebrating.
We're celebrating the life of.
So the music that you hear in those services are going to portray that. And for this instance, I can't say that.
Yeah, no.
I can't say that.
There was no quiet, silent, we're taking this all in of the tragedy moment. This was it was almost like they were trying to celebrate her life, and it's but her life was mostly filled with turmoil. What is this?
And I can appreciate, the only thing I could say that's worth celebrating is that Sylvia was such a outstanding person.
Yeah.
And even during her abuse, like, she was still trying to comfort her sister and, you know, be a calming presence. The narration-wise, movie-wise, whatever, that was kind of like a bad decision.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna
it's 2007, so I'm like, it could have been a lot worse.
I'll give it like a 6.5, 7. It is one of the best true crime movies that I've watched because it definitely stuck to most of the details. But aside from Elliot Page and I think it's Catherine Keener that played Gertrude Baniszewski. I'm gonna figure out this name. But they were like the best actors throughout. Yeah. And I'm not like, you know, blaming the little kids. But the one who played Paula, sometimes her attitude didn't stick for me. But for the most part, she was really good. Everybody else, I was like, you're just here. You're just here. And I feel like if you're making a movie, even if you're trying to like stick to the biopic type of aspect of the true crime fictional part of it, yeah, like literally half of those kids were just there. Like there was one point where they were trying to portray, I don't remember, was it, you said James was the other young one?
Yeah.
They were trying to portray him as if he was like a serial killer in the making. Like,
yeah, they did.
Pulling the dog bowl away from the dog when he was supposed to eat.
that was one of the like little things. I mean, of course, I didn't go into like every detail of her abuse, but that was one of the little things he did. He would torture her in that sense where he would try to give her food or pretend like he was going to give her food and then pull it away as she reached for it. Yeah,
I would have preferred to see him do that with her. Because it's like, when I saw it with the dog, I was like, okay, we're seeing signs of it. Mm-hmm. But it didn't really escalate until later. So it was just like, I got it, but for the most part of this movie, he was just there. And then all of a sudden, he wasn't. Yeah. It was like, now you're playing a major part in this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, Evan Peters is always good to me. At one point, I thought the guy that Paula was, like, sleeping around with, the married guy, was, like, Chris Pratt. And I had to, like, really squint. And I was like, am I just mixing him up because he looks like another, like, basic white dude? But no, he just really looked like Chris Pratt at first, on first glance. And goodness. I was like, no, that's not it. But, no, there were just so many characters that I feel like didn't need to be there. And I think they tried to hone it down while trying to not include the rest of Sylvia and Jenny's siblings.
Yeah.
But it was like, damn, hone down on it more because there was just so many of them that were just, I didn't even remember their names. Like, I didn't remember Stephanie. I didn't remember her until the end when she was like, I think she's dead, Mom. And I was like, well, why are you here? Who are you? I don't think we needed the voiceover at all. It only happened twice. Well, not even twice, like a few times. But it was just so unnecessary. I feel like we would have gotten it without having to hear her talk about it. Yeah. Like, there was nothing that wasn't blatantly obvious happening on the screen that we needed to hear her own thoughts for.
Yeah.
So that was, like, my main issue with it. Otherwise, like, the rest of it was, like, this was the best true crime movie I've seen.
Yeah, especially hearing the beginning voiceover, it kind of threw me off because I was like, what?
Yeah. Oh, I think the other thing, too, I think I mentioned it earlier, but there were just parts that it made sense when you said it in the actual story, but there were just parts of Gertrude. Her abuse came from not the rest of it, but the initial thing where it was like, your parents' payment didn't come, so now I'm just going to do this. And I'm just like, what is this in response to? And
yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed so off, but also I'm not, like, insane. So maybe I just don't get it. But I'm just like, I think I needed a clearer understanding. Even if it was, like, an insane understanding, I needed some sort of understanding as to why it was Sylvia that she was mainly picking on. Because she never did anything to Jenny.
No.
Never. And I'm just like, I don't understand, like, why her specifically. At first I thought it was because she's just jealous of her, but I didn't know why. And then when you explained it later, I was like, okay, makes more sense. But yeah, in the movie, that didn't come across.
No, it didn't. It really felt like it kind of just jumped.
Yeah, I was like, what?
So I was like, that's kind of like a weird reaction to a check being late, but
major twist.
The movie kind of makes you do a little bit of legwork. Yeah, I think
I liked that they came up with the idea that Paula turned on Sylvia because she told someone, well, she said out loud that she was pregnant or whatever, and then in turn Paula was like so upset about that she's just like, now I want revenge.
Bruh, First of all, that whole situation made me mad.
It did, but that's why it was so good.
You're sitting here messing with a married man. You're ready to tell him you're pregnant. He's telling you it's over. Why are you mad that Sylvia trying to protect you from getting beat? Shouts out that you're pregnant. It got him to stop hitting you, right?
Right. And it's like, she shouldn't have shouted it out. But it's like, bruh, she was trying to help you.
Yeah, they were the only ones there except for Evan Peters' creepy self.
Right.
But,
that's Ricky. Evan Peters was Ricky. And Ricky was just like off in the corner. If you watch the movie, he was just off in the corner just staring. I'm like, this little fucking creep.
Weird.
Go away.
How can you get upset? And I hate that they kind of like started off with them as like, oh, we're such great friends. Look at doing each other's hair, sitting on each other's bed, reading magazines. And then the switch is, it just, boom. All right, I'm beating you in the face now. I'm throwing you down the stairs.
Yeah, I think that's why
damn.
I had to give it a lesser rating. Because I was just like, there's certain things that are not fully explained. It's just big reaction. It's just like, what? And I get it because, you know, if they're being influenced by their crazy-ass mother, then how do you even show that?
Honestly,
but it's like,
in the story itself, too, like, it's kind of like that. Like, even with all these explanations, it's still no direct link as to why this happened so fast.
Yeah. It's just like, there's no way they could have made up for it. But if it was going to be fictional, I think they could have made it clearer.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the real story, you can't find any explanation on that.
Yeah.
Insane is just insane.
Yeah.
But as far as, like, movie watching, please clarify. Oh, yeah, I had wrote down that, quote, I imagine the reason she didn't cry was because she didn't have enough water. And it's like, Gertrude just sat there like, and? I'm like, bitch. I don't necessarily feel like I completely hated it, but I didn't necessarily like it. When the movie faked us out to think that Sylvia got out, escaped and everything, and then
that
it turned
was so ridiculous.
Yeah, I was like, why did we spend so much time on this? Why did we spend so much time thinking like Ricky drove her out of there?
I really
and they got
was
away.
like, oh, this is how it ends. Oh, yes.
And it's like, I guess it's painting the picture of like, there's no happy endings and stuff like this. But it's like, we didn't need that here. We didn't need that. This is like a real story about torture and pain, and you decided to fake us out by making it seem like, oh, she got away. No, she did not. She didn't. In punishment of us believing that, said, all right, well, now we're going to show that she didn't really get out. She died. Like, what?
Too much.
Such a fucking messed up fucking story.
It's a real heavy topic to start off a podcast, but you know what? It needed to be said.
It did. It really did.
It needed to be.
There's so many messed up things. Like, I'm not one of those people who are like, oh my God, I have a favorite serial killer. I don't do that shit. But I'm just so curious about what makes them do these sort of things that I'm like, no, I have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I have to. Like, I just cannot understand how Gertrude sat there and thought any of that was okay. And then excused it to the point where she threw her own kids under the bus and was like, yeah, I didn't do anything. That was all them.
It's just like trying to normalize not normal behavior. And I think using her kids was normalizing it for her. Mm-hmm. And it just became, an everyday thing, like, whatever. And that's the part that really eats at me. Like, to just say you're going to take care of another human being and then do this to them, it just...
fucked up.
It's too much. Especially since I don't want to say that, like, her mental illness is her fault. But, we make decisions. Even knowing our own circumstances, we make certain decisions. And this was just one that didn't need to be... It didn't need to turn out this way.
It didn't. It could have just been a simple call of, hey, your check was late. Where's my money? Take your kids back.
Right. Like, here, take them back. Like, I'm putting them outside. If she had said, I'm kicking them out and left them out on the street, it would have been better.
I would have respected her more for just saying, like, these ain't my kids.
It would have been better.
Take them back. Like, I mean, it's still fucked up.
It's still messed up.
Yeah, but it's just like, put them outside. Those aren't my kids. This is not my responsibility. You were supposed to be paying me for this. The check didn't come. Did the check even actually come in real life?
Yeah, it did.
So, what?
It did. It was just late. That's another thing. Like, just because it came late, it wasn't on time.
She needs to die.
Well, she did.
Yeah, I mean, like, die again. Thank you guys for tuning in to our very first episode of Foot Off the Bed. We'll have more movie reviews, paranormal, and true crime stories coming to you every other Monday for hopefully like many more years to come, however long we decide to do this.
To catch more of our episodes, you can visit our website at footoffthebed.com and follow us on Instagram at footoffthebedpodcast. You can like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Foot Off the Bed.
So, remember to stay safe.
And don't leave your foot off the bed.
Hey, Janelle here. I just wanted to add a few things to the end of the episode for our brand new listeners to catch. Shout out to Gotham Podcast Studio. If you have a podcast and you need a place to record and you can't record at home, that's the place to record. It's efficient. It's so clean in there. They're so professional. I love them. We love them. Our first episode went great, so check them out. Also, shout out to Jessica the Composer. That's how you can find her on Instagram. She created our intro for the podcast, and it sounds amazing. She made my super annoying voice sound so creepy and wonderful. So shout out to her. If you're looking for any type of composer, she's the person. Also wanted to add, if you visit footoffthebed.com, as we stated earlier, you can subscribe to our Patreon, where you can get special content as one of our Patreon subscribers, such as watching live events of us exploring haunted places and receiving a special thank you video and so much more. So please check that out. We would greatly appreciate your support. Thank you, and don't leave your foot off the bed.